Hello, everybody. Welcome along to today's live masterclass. Hope you are all doing very well today. I'm Jenny, I'm BrightLocal's Social and Community Manager, and I am hosting today's session with Elizabeth Rule. Today we are going to discuss the importance of brand in SEO. And I can already see we have got loads of people joining us so far. So let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. You can see it on the bottom right of your screen. Make sure that you check the little drop down from hosts and panelists to everyone. So some of you, I can see are writing just to the hosts and panelists. If you choose the drop down to everyone can see where you are joining from, but we have got people from Chicago, we have got Andy from Georgia, Jessica from Denver, Huntington, Charlotte, Kurt normally in France, but now in Sweden, Fort Lauderdale.
Ooh,
Oh, amazing. We've got people from all over. This is so cool. The Shire. Love
the
it.
Shire. I
Um,
want to come visit you in the Shire.
Hell yeah. Awesome. We have got, a really, really great webinar about brand and SEO, which is something that I've noticed lots of people in the SEO industry talking about right now. The topic of brand also actually came up a lot in our expert predictions for 2025 piece, which we'll share a link to that in the comments, I believe. And there are some really, really interesting ideas. I think we should say hello, Elizabeth. I will love to introduce Elizabeth Rule from Sterling Sky. Elizabeth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. My name's Elizabeth Rule. I am a account manager and SEO strategist at Sterling Sky. I am also a Google Business Profile product expert, helping businesses on the GBP community forum help handle various GBP issues.
Awesome. So if you've got any GBP issues, head over to the community help forum. And yeah, you'll be
Yes.
bound to see Elizabeth in there answering lots of questions. Before we get going, I just want to say that you can take as many notes as you want, but this webinar is actually recorded, so you can return to it any time. It's going to be sent to you into your inbox. We'll share it in tomorrow's newsletter. You can find it on the website or our YouTube channel as soon as it's finished downloading and uploading. And I think, Q&A. That was the other thing on my list to tell you all about, is the Q&A. We will end the session with a Q&A with Elizabeth. So if you've got questions, I think you should be able to ask them to Elizabeth and she'll be really happy to answer them for you. If you click the Q&A button, which is on the bottom of your screen, open that up and you can ask all of your questions in there. Upvote any of the questions that you want Elizabeth to answer. And what we'll do is we'll kind of run through the list. We'll get through as many as we can. All of the ones with, lots of upvotes, I'm sure will be the popular questions that will be most relatable to everyone in the room. So get your questions in there and upvote any of the ones that you want answering. So let's kick off the masterclass. I would love to hear more about SEO and brand, especially, Elizabeth, I guess, why don't you start by telling us why everyone is talking about brand right now?
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic. And I think it's a hot topic more or less because of the introduction of AI into Google search. And Google seems to be, pulling information from various sources, especially business websites. And, a lot of brands are getting their information pulled in for various types of searches. So, and a lot of the information Google is, bringing out about AIO and about, this new brand profile even that they launched in Merchant Center. I think there's just a lot of discussion around like how important is it for your brand to be like an authority of your particular service and topic. So there's definitely a lot that goes into branding, and we've been talking about it more and more in 2025, but I think it's something that's been, an asset to SEO for years. And I do have a deck here to share a little bit more about what I've been seeing with brand and particularly branding in the AIO, as well as, some tried and true branding tactics that we've been using for years to help clients show up more in local search.
Thank you. Yeah, let's kick off with the slides and
Great.
find out everything that you've got to say.
Yeah. Okay.
Fabulous.
All right. So as you guys know, I'm Elizabeth Rule, and I've been working with businesses since 2020 or 2015 in the local SEO space. And ever since I started working in local SEO, brand has been such a hot topic. The bigger the brand, the more authority you have on a topic, the more you're going to show up in organic search. But these days, brand is getting talked about so much. And I think the hype of AIO and SGE has really brought it more to the focus. And even just seeing big brands like, Forbes, we've been seeing Forbes articles ranking all over for various searches. And they seem to be doing well when it comes to showing up more after algorithm updates. Google seems to be favoring, it seems, bigger brands with more authority, like domain authority, over smaller brands for any kind of search, like non-local and local type searches. And Google announced recently that they have a new brand profile that they are launching, and it's through Merchant Center right now. So it is for businesses that sell physical products. But I think, and so it's not for all local businesses, a lot of businesses don't sell physical products, but I think this is a very clear indication that Google is shifting more, or, presenting more visibility into their shift on focusing on brands and understanding the full breadth of what a brand can bring to any sort of topic or industry when it comes to Google search. But honestly, I don't think branding is anything new. It's always been important in SEO. I don't think AIO makes it more important than ever, but it's probably just on the forefront more because search is evolving so heavily to showcase, bigger brands, that people are, shifting and think, oh, Google cares more about brands. But really, I think they've always cared about brands. So yeah, it's really not about, well, branding's more important now, but with things like AIO and the increase in zero-click searches, it may seem harder for SEOs to or for SEO to happen for local businesses because you're not getting that click onto your website as often as you were with these new search features. But really, I think it could be easier than ever for businesses to show up more in local search if they pay more attention to their brand, both online and offline, and then working to build that trust with their communities so that you're getting showcased more as a brand across various local websites, local social media communities, local forums, things like that. All right. Because a strong brand is one of the most impactful things you can have for your SEO. You can show up number one in the local pack, you can show up number one organic, but if no one knows and trusts your brand, are they really likely to click on your listing or your website over another brand that they may already know? And with the increase of zero-click searches where people aren't leaving the search results pages, it's more important than ever they understand who you are and they have some sort of inherent trust in your brand because they've just, seen you before, they've seen reviews, read reviews about you, maybe they heard about you from their people in the local community. And even if they're not clicking onto your website, they should still be able to contact you some way easily from just searching your brand after they see you in the search results. So things like offline marketing, I find that clients that do that more traditional marketing, say like billboards, having branded vehicles that drive around the area, those businesses tend to do a little bit better when it comes to SEO because people are just more engaged with the brand in general, and they're more likely to click on you, and they're more likely to, engage with you when they see you on the search results. And that user engagement, that's going to help you rank better. If more people are clicking on your website, you are going to go up in the rankings, especially if you're not ranking number 1 and they scroll down and click you on number 3 or 4. That's a signal to Google that that's a quality page for that search. And then you're going to get possibly get a little bit of a ranking boost, especially if, that keeps happening. On top of offline marketing, spreading your marketing efforts beyond Google and beyond your website is extremely important. Marketing on local social media forums, community engagement on local forums is so important. Like, you want to get your brand name out there to your local community wherever they are. And people aren't just always on Google, despite, what us SEOs may think. Google is a huge piece of the puzzle. But if you're not engaging with communities more at their level, like next door, for example, I see people in my community posting on that multiple times a day. Like, they're very engaged with that community, that forum. And if your brand isn't there, or on another forum where people are actually engaging, talking, sharing referrals, asking questions, then you're kind of missing out on a huge branding opportunity online. And it's also going to help you build trust with the community and your potential customers, which is also extremely important. Because if they don't trust your brand, or they don't know your brand, when they see you on search, again, they're less likely to click. But it is, we do work in SEO. The website is really the most important thing when it comes to building out a strong SEO campaign for your business. And a strong brand website is really crucial. There are, I have seen a couple, local business websites that don't mention some like crucial pieces of information that all local businesses should mention, like, who they are, what you do, like what exact services are you offering, and where do you do it. Maybe you have one physical location somewhere, but you service an entire brand area. If you're not mentioning all of those areas you service and the services you do in that area on your website, you're missing out on a lot of branding opportunity in a greater service area beyond your just one physical location. And especially if you're a multi-location business, like I have worked with some multi-location businesses that didn't have every address listed on their website. And again, that's super crucial to have, not only for users, but for Google to understand that, you are a local business with multiple locations, you're serving multiple areas, and doing all those services in those areas. So you want to make it really easy for Google and users to know exactly who you are and where you are. And all that is done on your brand website. You really want to make that the source of truth for your brand, but also become an authority in your industry on any particular topic that is related to your services. Your brand website is a great place to just put all of your well-crafted content that talking about your services, answering questions that customers have, answering questions that potential customers have, or if they're looking to maybe do it DIY, showcasing to them that you know how to do it best. This is how you could do it DIY, and just explaining your expertise on your website. So it's really about those facts about your business, and then showcasing all your knowledge, brilliance, and expertise for Google end users to see clearly. And going back to AIO, because this is a huge topic, people are scrambling to figure out, how do I get into AIO? How do I optimize for AIO? And, I don't have any great news in that I have a clear process on how this is how you can optimize to get #1 in AIO, because there doesn't seem to be a clear correlation between what's showing in AIO and what's ranking in organic search. I've seen indications that, if you're ranking better in organic search, you can show up in AIO. But I've also seen examples where the business website is not ranking organically on the first page, yet they're still showing up in the AIO. So there's no, and Google hasn't given, any indication to the ranking factors behind AIO or exactly how Google is pulling this information, especially for local search. I went to the Google Search Summit in New York City with two of my colleagues 2 weeks ago, and we actually got the opportunity to ask the people at Google, how is Google pulling in local business information to AIO? This example I have here, you can see the arrows are pointing to a business that business is showing up 4 times in the AIO. And on the left, it has 2 pages from their website that they're pulling info from. But I've seen examples of businesses where the phone number is showing and the phone number is actually wrong. Like Google will use the same phone number for 4 different businesses in the AIO, and they're pulling wrong information. So in Google, they weren't able to give us an answer on how Google is pulling this information into AIO. They weren't able to say, oh, it's from the website. Oh, it's from Google Business Profile. We've seen indications that Google will pull information from both sources. So it's extremely important, in my opinion, to make sure that the source of truth for your business, like phone number, brand name, addresses, they're correct in both places, your Google profile and the website. And that you're also adding as much content as possible to your website related to your services. Because in this example here, the AIO is using 2 pages from this particular business to pull into the AIO. So in my mind, that's, Google's giving them a little more credit than, say, another business that they're only pulling information from 1 page. Because there's 2 quality pages on the site Google thinks is worthy of pulling into the AIO. So it's just an example of how having like a good breadth of content on your site that's well crafted, talking about your services, can be extremely important to showing up in AIO. And you definitely need to keep your brand website up to date and as the source of truth for all your business information. So your Google listing, yeah, that's important to have the correct business information, but some businesses, they don't bring the same info to the website, or if they update something on the Google listing, like an address or phone number, making sure you update it on your website too, so that it's correct. Because Google has been known and does often change business information on a Google listing based on what they find on the website. So I've seen things like hours get changed, phone numbers get changed. In this example here, the business name got changed for this business because it didn't match their website. So it's extremely important that your brand website is the source of truth for all of your business information. If it's not correct across all your citations, if it's not correct on, like, say, social media profiles, that's still important. You want to make sure information is correct wherever people are searching, especially if it shows up on the first page for like a branded search. But your website, that's where I see the biggest opportunity to make sure that information is all correct, because you own the website. That's like the one thing online that you can really own compared to like these third-party social media pages and even the Google listing, And speaking of changes, your brand is so important because it's how people recognize you. But the brand name can also be an opportunity to strategize showing up more on Google Maps. So if anyone has ever gone through a rebrand, it can be kind of like a laborious process. There's a lot of boxes to check when it comes to that, but it's definitely worth it, in my opinion, if you're looking to rank higher in local search for specific keywords that you can, say, add to your brand name. So this is something I work with clients on to do. I typically recommend for local businesses in competitive industries, competitive markets, if you're looking to rank higher in search, because it's a pretty easy strategy to implement. But it does, require you kind of changing your brand name for everyone. But adding keywords into that business name and then going through the official steps to rebrand it, like making edits to your website, updating your logo, updating your domain registry, things like that, is going to make it official so that you can actually add that keyword rich name into your Google business listing. And keywords in the business name do help you rank better in local search. But you just do need to follow Google's guidelines. Like, I do not want people to start keyword stuffing their business name, without really a second thought. I don't want people to just start adding every single keyword to their business name. It should be definitely like a focused strategy, picking one or two of your top converting keywords to add to the business name. For example, like this business here, they got the unique brand modifier, which is extremely important to have, by the way. If you don't have a unique brand modifier in your business name, it can actually confuse Google and users more than it can help. Say, for example, this business was just called, like, they were in Toronto, and they were just called Toronto Heating and Air Conditioning. That's a great keyword that I want to rank #1 for, but Google may not understand that that's your actual brand and not just like a keyword that, they should show other brands for as well. So you want to have that uniqueness to it, like, Steve's Toronto Heating and Cooling. That's a silly example, but like something a little bit better. But you don't negate that uniqueness for just adding keywords. But if you do add keywords to your business name like this, compared to something like this, where, comfort systems, that's not necessarily as good of a keyword in the HVAC space as heating and air conditioning. So this business here kind of has an advantage over this business when it comes to ranking for the heating and air conditioning keywords. And Sterling Sky, we do this a lot for businesses, and we help them rebrand. So we have a 8-step checklist that you can follow to make sure that you're doing everything in the proper order, that you're adhering to Google's guidelines to be able to add your new brand name to your Google profile. And on top of, the Google profile, you do have control over almost everything on the Google listing. There are some things, you don't have too much control over, but one thing you don't have control over that I know a lot of business owners probably would like more control over it are reviews. So online reviews are really a reflection of your brand as shown by customers and people that have interacted with your brand. People are going to trust online reviews a lot more than, you just saying your business is great. So building up a really solid review portfolio for your Google listing, as well as other online citation sites or review sites, can really help propel your brand into the next level. Not to mention that getting new reviews consistently is a major ranking factor. On top of that, having good reviews showing high on your Google listing is going to help promote trust and conversions for your brand. And make sure to be kind with your replies. All businesses are going to get bad reviews. It's just the nature of the game. But it really shows like a business's true colors when they reply to a review. And if it's a negative reply or it's, a little contentious, that could, leave a bad taste in a customer's mouth and prevent them from contacting you. So being kind in your replies, that's one of my best recommendations for business owners that are dealing with maybe negative reviews. And actually reading the review and understanding the pain points this customer is dealing with when it comes to your business. Like in this particular case, they didn't like the meat, it tasted sour, served over some rotten green olives. That's not a great review, but you can take something from that and maybe change your own processes at your business to, try to prevent a customer from having an experience like this in the future. Because if one customer had an experience like this and left a review, you don't know how many may have had a similar experience but didn't leave a review and just aren't going to come back. So your reply can let them know, hey, we're taking this review seriously. We hear your concerns. We're going to make adjustments to correct that from happening in the future. That goes a long way with potential customers, because maybe you won't get this guy back. He doesn't want to eat your kebabs anymore. But the next person looking for the best lamb kebab in your area may see that review, see that you actually took the concern seriously, and they're willing to give you a try because you're trying to, better your business. Because everything you do online, especially your Google listing, is a reflection of your own brand. So it's important to make sure that you're only putting out positivity when it comes to your interaction with your customers. All right, that's it for my little presentation, but I know we do have some questions and definitely more to discuss around this topic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yeah, that's really, really great. And I think I've got a few kind of follow-up questions. But I also wanted to start off, we've had this comment from Susan in the chat who has said, my site has been listed in AIO many times, but whenever Google can, it will replace good local content with dated and poor content from a national site. Obviously, it's a little bit of a problem as to how Google decides who is an authority.
Yeah.
Google feels that corporations are better authority sources than local experts. Is that something that you've also seen with clients? Is there anything that you might suggest or you might have an idea about or any insights on, just to kind of, I guess, yeah, obviously back up what Susan's saying, but also advise on anything we can do in that situation?
Yeah. So in this case, I'm just reading the comment here. So it sounds like we have two sites. There's a local site and a national site for the same brand. Yeah, that can be really tricky because if Google understands that both domains are for the same brand, they might not be as willing to show the localized site over the national site. If you do have multiple sites, one of the first things I would look into is combining those sites. Because if it is, in fact, the same brand, in my experience, having one brand site, even if you're operating in like a lot of different areas, say you operate in like multiple states across the US, or you operate in multiple provinces in Canada, whatever it may be, having one brand website that has dedicated local pages for each of your areas is usually better than having multiple local sites that are targeting that specific area. That way, Google can get a better indication of like, this is the whole brand and this is everywhere they service. And you won't have that. You might still have the problem with like different pages ranking when you don't want them to, but you won't have that problem of Google choosing another site over your national site, which probably has more authority than a smaller local site. So you'd be kind of working against yourself trying to build up the authority of that local site, versus if you combine it, then you're going to get the advantage of the authority the national site has for your local pages.
Awesome. And I guess to follow up from that, is there anything that we could consider when we are competing against like a really old established brand that everyone knows versus the kind of new upcoming, I don't know, challenger brand or smallest local regional chain business? Obviously, yeah, big brand versus small brand, old versus new. Is there anything else that we can kind of do in that situation? In terms of outranking competition or getting the brand out there when you're up against the big players or the old established brand?
Yeah. There's definitely a lot you can do to try to outrank those established businesses, and sometimes it can be hard, so you have to really pick your battles when it comes to the keywords that you're trying to outrank a national brand for. Like I mentioned Forbes earlier, they're showing up a lot more for informational searches, And it may be hard to outrank them if you're a smaller brand, just because it seems Google's focusing more on, that larger brand for that particular query. So I would definitely focus on, local queries that convert well. And then the pages that are ranking for those local queries, make sure you have as much first party data on those pages as possible. And what I mean by first party data is data that you've gathered from your own business to answer people's questions. Like I see this a lot when it comes to optimizing for cost queries. And by the way, Google loves numbers. So if you're a business that you get a lot of questions about how much you cost, or you have, information on your site about cost, add some actual numbers to those pages and like give the actual data of like, we're a plumber and it costs our customers on average $100 to fix a blocked drain. That's information that you are giving Google that they don't have already. Because you can look up cost to fix a blocked drain and you're going to get a million different answers. If you're giving Google a unique answer based on your own personal experience, which Google considers personal and professional experience a form of expertise in an area, Google is going to want to index that more than they would if you're just kind of regurgitating the cost info you find on, say, Home Advisor, like another big brand website. And that alone could help you rank better in your local area than like a big national brand website, especially if you say, if you have like a location page and it's like, our customers in Toronto tend to spend $100 to $200 to fix a blocked drain. You're localizing that cost info more than a national brand probably could, because this page is focused specifically on Toronto plumbing services. So that first party data is what I recommend businesses add to their site over, like information you can easily find online.
Yeah, and I think there's probably some really nice advantages with that in mind. Um,
Yeah.
and you mentioned as well about not always being on Google, and the kind of off Google, some of the offline stuff works really, really well to get your brand out there and show your authority. You talked about communities and using the Nextdoor platform. Are there any other communities that small businesses or local businesses can be a part of? I know Reddit's obviously a massive thing right now as well. Do you have any advice on that kind of community side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Nextdoor is a great one because it's very localized into communities. There are a lot of industry specific forums. Like if you do a search related to like car detailing or anything for cars, you'll find like there's a bunch of car specific forums that people have been posting in for decades. Like I've seen Google pull in threads from like, I think it's like a car talk forum from like 10 years ago. So Google, industry specific forums can be a great place to, interact with potential customers, not in a salesy way though. You want to be as helpful as possible when it comes to just, providing information to people as an expert, and not being like, oh, you need to pay me for this information, or you should just contact me and I'll tell you for a fee. No, you want to be helpful and not salesy, but make sure that your brand name is available for people to see if they do click on your profile after they read like a really helpful answer. They click on your profile to find out who you are. They can easily see, wow, this is part of like Steve's plumbing brand. That's good to know. Um, Definitely Reddit too. You can do a similar thing. There are tons of local subreddits, and I see them show up in local search results all the time for like best plumber near me, or like any type of local search. You will find those local communities showing up. And a lot of the times people do, talk about specific brands. They're like, say you're in like Syracuse, New York, and you're like, oh, what is the best garage door repair company that you guys have used? And they'll get like dozens of people in Syracuse recommending their like the brands they use. To make sure you stay on top of that, set up, it's called a Google alert. And you can set that up for your brand name or any variation of your brand name people may use. And Google will send you an alert for whenever your brand is mentioned online. And you can set it up. Actually, my colleague Justin showed us how to do this. You can set it up to just show when your brand shows up on Reddit so that you know, oh, someone's mentioned your brand on Reddit. Now you can head over there, either thank them for mentioning you, do some follow up to be like, this is how you contact us. Or if it wasn't a good mention, maybe you can do a little bit of, you know, damage control there and try to like get the thread back on track of why your brand is good.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's surprising, isn't it? The amount of, I mean, obviously Reddit is it's got its own kind of reputation, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
surprising the amount of local communities and opportunities there is for local
Yeah,
businesses on such a
yeah.
platform that,
But
people think so much
again,
about.
yeah, but again, do not be salesy, especially on Reddit. People will downvote you like crazy. They don't like when you get on there and be salesy. There isn't a business that sold speakers or something. Oh, I wish I remember the brand name, but they had an employee, like an engineer on their team named Kevin, and he was just on Reddit being so helpful in like the audiophile subreddits, and people just absolutely loved him to the point where they would literally go to the brand website and purchase things from them and say, Kevin is the best employee you have. And he wasn't selling things. He wasn't even like mentioning the brand a lot on Reddit. People just genuinely really appreciated his like information he was giving, that so much that they found out who he worked for and started buying their speakers. So it can be very impact if you have someone on your team who is more into Reddit. Like we do this at Sterling Sky. We're on Reddit too. I like being on Reddit. I love helping people on Reddit like I do on the GVP forum. Because not everyone knows to go to the GVP forum. People are asking for help on Reddit. And just being as helpful as possible without expecting anything from that customer. It's just such a great way to build trust with a very hyper focused audience.
Awesome. Just before we go into the Q&A, I've got like one more sort of question that I've thought of during your presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those watching the webinar, if you head over to the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen, you'll see there are 19 questions. If you start upvoting any of the ones that you're interested in, I will go through those with the most upvotes in a second. The other kind of question that I have is obviously when people think of brand, they think of really like cool brands with cool design, funky websites. And that's really fun and that's really memorable for some of these brands. But sometimes these really cool brands that have these websites aren't intuitive or user-friendly. Is there a balance between kind of having this really like fun design and also being more SEO friendly? Is there anything about, focusing on obviously the user experience as well? Is there
Yeah.
anything around that?
Yeah, I think user experience, design are all extremely important aspects of branding. I'm a true SEO though, and when it comes to investing more in design over SEO usability, I'm always going to be like, it can be a little ugly and it'll still rank well. But that said, you do want to make sure your website reflects your brand in the best light and that it is usable from a conversion standpoint, that people can easily contact you. So you want to have like click to call buttons, contact forms throughout the site so that people can always find that path to contact you after they've landed on the site. And you want to make sure your website's usable. Like if it's so slow that people can't even like load a page within a couple seconds or even like a second, people are impatient. If a page takes too long to load, I'm probably leaving. So technical things like that are important to, keep up to date with. Make sure your site is secure, updating plugins, and that your site is able to be used by people who are going to try and add SEO optimizations to it Like you can easily edit content, you can edit metadata, you can edit things like navigation, URLs. So you want to make sure you, like, the layman's person can use your site, not just one developer or a developer. So that's, I see some businesses that are looking to get a new website just because their website is so hard to make edits to. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you are looking to redo your site, that it is editable and easy to use in the back end as it is on the front end. And it looks pretty on the front end, but it also is pretty and easy to use on the back end.
Awesome, thank you. Great. Let's kick off with the Q&A. Obviously, you've just mentioned about rebranding. Willow asks, in terms of rebranding, Google seems to suspend GBPs that make core updates to their name. How can that be avoided?
Following the rebranding checklist that I had in the presentation, and we'll add it into the chat here, Google is not, in my experience, Google does not suspend profiles because of like the brand name, like, or adding keywords into the business name. But you want to make sure that it is, a legal business name that you can use, whether it be like you fully rebrand the business and it's changed the name everywhere, or you get a DBA, which is a doing business as certificate. In the States, you can do that, I think, at like the county level. And then you have legal documentation, like this is your business name. And if Google ever does, I think the most Google would do is change the name, and they'll change it back to the original, or they'll change it back to whatever they find on the website, or sometimes social media profiles, they'll change it back to that name. But if then, if they change it back too many times, you can contact support and show them the evidence, like this is my real business name. Why do you keep changing it? Please don't change it. And sometimes, typically that works, and then you can keep the keyword rich business name. I wouldn't be too worried about suspensions though in that case, especially if you're following that rebranding checklist.
Awesome, thank you. Omar has asked, are backlinks still relevant? Do they help brand? Are they still relevant?
Absolutely. Backlinks are, one of the most valuable SEO tools that you have. And if you're getting, I like to see a mix of branded backlinks. So that's backlinks to your website using your brand name. And you want to focus on seeing if you can get those type of backlinks on like high authority websites in your industry. So they can be more national focused for sure. You want to showcase that your brand really knows everything there is to know about your industry, and it's showcased on different websites, like high authority ones like Yahoo, Forbes, those sites that kind of syndicate content. I think that can be important to do consistently, but also you want to focus on local backlinks. I'm personally a more proponent for local backlink strategies as a way to help improve your local rankings. Whereas, building up a backlink portfolio from high value sites that are industry relevant, it's not going to move the needle as much for your local rankings so much as just building that authority of the website with Google overall.
Fabulous, thank you. Question from Erin. What if you have multiple sales offices? Should you direct or ask for your reviews to sales offices so you only get a few each, or do you direct them all to headquarters?
You direct them to the profiles you want to rank. So if you say you have 3 profiles in 3 different major cities, you're going to need to get consistent reviews to all 3 of them if you want them to rank well long term. Getting consistent new reviews, so say like example 1 review a week, 2 reviews a week, if you can get more, amazing. That is going to help you more than your review count. So unfortunately, there's no real way to rest on your laurels when you get your review count up really high for one profile, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to switch sending reviews to this profile now. You might see that original profile you're no longer getting reviews on go down in rankings as it gets further and further from the date of your last review. So you do need to be consistent across all the profiles you want to rank.
Awesome. And as far as Google reviews, is there a number of reviews that we should be aiming for?
When you're first starting off, we've tested and found that 10 reviews is kind of where you're going to get that boost. But then after that, it is consistent reviews over time. And the number of reviews you should be like aiming for depends on your competition. Like, but it can be very challenging if you're like a new player in the field and your competitors have hundreds of reviews. I wouldn't focus on their review count so much as like how many reviews are they getting a week? That's how many reviews you need to get a week. And you can look at your top competitors to see that. And then you can even, outrank them if they stop getting new reviews and you consistently get them over time. That can help you rank better than them, even if they have more reviews.
Um, Thinking about head offices again, Anthony asks if you have a head office and a customer-facing office next to each other, is placing brand name head office as the place name, does that fall foul of Google's policies?
Um, a little bit, yeah. The brand, it needs to be like your actual name, like your legal business name, your legal brand name. That's what Google wants you to add to the business listing. That said, businesses like, say, Apple, for example, they do add like the location modifier after their name. It says like Apple Store, New York City, Apple Store, Harlem. So like people know, and Google seems to be okay with that. So like I wouldn't see an issue with adding like something like corporate office to the name. But it's probably not that necessary unless you don't want people using that profile compared to the other one.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. And then thinking about adding the brand name in GBP, Mark has
Hmm.
asked, the customer's brand logo actually has some extended words in it. Could he safely use some of those words?
Yeah, logo is something on the checklist that you need to make sure matches your brand name. And it's actually one of the most important things, including like, on your website, changing that to reflect what's on Google as well. But having those keywords in the logo really does help show users and Google that is your full business name. So I would definitely recommend updating logo if you're rebranding.
Awesome, thank you. Um, Michelle has asked this question that we're all probably thinking about. Obviously, Google doesn't ever explain how their own product works, especially with respect to
Yep.
AIO. Yeah, how are we to improve our search relevance? And also, I guess a follow-on question to that is, um, who do we need to follow online to learn more about how to obviously improve that relevance? Do you have any kind of go-to people, go-to resources?
So yeah, my go-to resource is honestly Sterling Sky. We do so much testing around these things. But when it comes to AIO, I've been on uh, LinkedIn and Twitter a lot, just following the news about different AI features that are happening. Like I follow Lily Ray and Glenn Gabe because they're always on the forefront of like new features in AIO. And one thing I saw recently that Lily Ray posted was um, AIL was pulling in social media comments from LinkedIn about her uh, keynote speech at Brighton SEO. And that had happened like last week. It's not very old at all, but AIO was pulling in comments to say, like, yeah, people loved the keynote. People thought this about the keynote. So that was very interesting to me. And again, something I've not tested yet because it's very new, but understanding that Google will pull in information from more than just, business websites is just another reason to get your brand out there and engaging with people on online communities like social media. Because Google is clearly willing to pull in that information from wherever they can. And I do recommend if you want your business to show up more in AIO beyond social, make sure your website is optimized as much as possible for organic search because it is going to help bring more visibility to your business by Google in general. But again, there's no guarantee that that correlates with showing up more in AIO because there's no indication that like those two ranking systems, or even if you call AIO a ranking system, I probably wouldn't, but there's no indication that that interacts with the organic ranking system.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's it. And I think as well, it's just being able to stay on top of things happening in the industry and reading the news articles. And we send out a weekly newsletter as well, where we send
Yeah.
out all the latest news, and being able to keep your finger on the pulse is so tricky, but it's so worth doing, I think, when these new technologies come into play and there's new updates all the time. And yeah, amazing SEOs like Lily Ray are finding
Yes,
these very specific things and sharing it with everyone. Yeah, it's just changing so quick. So
it
it's
is.
difficult. It's a challenge, isn't it? But
Yeah, but don't get like too bogged down with like the new shiny features. It's so important to stay like up to date with them, which is why I love following those people. But like, we haven't shifted our SEO strategies much for clients in light of AIO. We're definitely aware of it. It is changing traffic patterns for sure. But we do want to focus on what we know works still, and that is organic, and that is still max rankings. So we're not all hands on deck when it comes to AIO yet. And I think businesses would do well to also not focus too much on that when there still is so much that they can be doing in organic and maps.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's always something to do. Um,
Yeah,
we've got a few questions just on reviews. Obviously it does play into brand, but yeah, really happy to post some questions about reviews. Do you have any
yeah.
suggestions or best practices for encouraging customers to leave reviews across multiple platforms? So obviously got GBP, Yelp, Facebook. Is there like a breakdown or kind of what should or would be best in that sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm biased because all my clients get a majority of their leads from either Google Maps or organic. But so I would focus on Google. I always want clients to get more Google reviews. Unless you have a really bad Yelp rating and that Yelp page is showing up on the first page for a branded search and you need to get better reviews to get that Yelp rating to go up, I wouldn't focus as much on Yelp or like other review platforms. So definitely do a branded search for your brand. And if you have multiple locations, do it in those specific areas and see what's showing up for a branded search. Sometimes you will see, review sites with bad review ratings show up. And I would focus on, getting those ratings up because they're very visible on the first page and you don't want that to turn off a potential customer. But if it's not showing up on the first page, I wouldn't focus on it too much. And if you are a business that gets a lot of leads from Facebook, like I do know there are a lot of home service businesses that get a ton of leads from Facebook, then yeah, you want to get some reviews to Facebook. But if that's also not a lead source for you right now, I wouldn't focus on that. I would focus on Google. But in terms of getting customers to leave reviews on multiple platforms, well, you want to make sure you're asking them, directly asking them, like, hey, do you mind leaving us a review on Google? Or do you mind leaving us a review on Google and Facebook? And then giving them the direct links, whether it be text message or email, is going to promote them to do that, actually do it quicker. So really the hand holding, it's time consuming, but it does work. And following up with like automated emails or automated text messages with those links can also really help if you don't get them to like leave the review during the face-to-face interaction. But I would definitely focus on where you're getting the most leads. So you're not asking customers to leave reviews on like 5 different platforms because they probably won't do that. They may do 2, even 3, but I would probably stick to 1 or 2 to focus on.
Good. Yeah, thank you. And it's actually had quite a few upvotes, but yeah, any advice on removing any fake reviews that a business
Oh,
might get in?
yeah, no, this is a hot topic. So if it's Google has a review tool and you can report reviews in that tool and then you can check to see if they did get removed. And if they do not get removed, you can appeal that decision. And then at that time, you can add in like reasons why it's fake, why it should get removed. It might get removed that way. And if it doesn't, you can always go over to the GBP community forum and ask a PE for help. because we can tell you with like more confidence if Google will likely remove the review or not. Because you want to keep in mind, Google will really only take action on the content of a review if it violates their guidelines. So, so like reviews that don't have any content in them are really hard to get removed because there's nothing in them that actually violates the guidelines. So you need to in some way prove the user is fake or, part of a fake review network, which is extremely difficult. So if it does have content in it, like, swear words, or if it has like personal information, like a phone number or a name of someone, those are content violations and Google will remove them. But also, Google is, as they say, always evolving when it comes to fighting spam. And they actually recently put out in their help articles how they're using AI to check reviews more often than they ever have. So like even old reviews that were posted months ago, they now have an AI system that can go through and check those and identify spam patterns. So like any patterns that seem kind of sketchy, and they can take action by removing the reviews that way. So that's, that strategy is kind of wait and see if Google does anything. But you should definitely report them however you can, like, and using the tool and then using the forum to ask a PE for help. And then understanding it might not get removed and posting a really nice reply that's going to have that other customers are going to read and think, wow, this business is actually really nice. They got a negative review, but maybe we'll give them a shot.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's making sure that there's a real like authentic experience around that.
Exactly.
And yeah, kind of showing other potential customers who you really are as a brand and as a business.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're not going to argue with people online.
Mm. Yeah, exactly that. We've also just put the link to the Google Business Profile Help community in the chat, where product experts like Elizabeth, I've seen a few people in the comments say that you've been very helpful to them in the community, and they're
Oh,
also
good.
here on this webinar because they've seen you in Reddit.
Oh, good.
Yeah, really, really cool to see. Even, that's you and your personal brand as such. I think it's a really good example as to what businesses can do online in those
Yeah,
communities.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We really try to be so helpful. Sterling Sky also has like a local search forum that it's free to join, and you can ask questions from experts and just trying to share information. That's what really builds a strong brand. If you're not scared to share what you know, help people even without getting paid necessarily, and people will start to trust what you say.
Yeah, so true. So yeah, build that trust.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That has been absolutely fantastic. Let us know in the live chat what you've learned. If you've learned something new today, we would love to hear your key takeaways. I can see my colleague Sammy is writing some key takeaways there already, which is really, really great to see. So make sure you follow Elizabeth on social media. I'm sure if you're happy to, you can contact her if you've got any more questions, or as she said, head over to the local search forum and ask your questions there. We have got BrightLocal Academy. So if you are new to local SEO, or if you want to level up and build on your local SEO skills, BrightLocal Academy has got a bunch of really, really great courses. And it's all free, it's all online, it's all self-paced. You can register and just be really great at local SEO through BrightLocal Academy. We've got more webinars coming up, so make sure you sign up to the newsletter. We will share when the next webinar is going to be. I can tell you next month's will be a live GBP audit with Danny Liebrant on pest control businesses. So if you are a pest control company, you will want to sign up for that one, or if you are any local business, it'll be really useful for you anyway. So if you want to continue the conversation after the webinar, head over to our Facebook group, the Local Pack. We'll drop a link there in the comments. We've got over 5,000 members asking talking and answering questions on local SEO. So if you're not there, I would recommend joining. And finally, I've got loads of stuff I have to promote at the end of these things. Let us know how we did in our quick follow-up survey. We would really, really, really appreciate your thoughts on what you learned today. It will take 30 seconds to fill in. So thank you again to Elizabeth, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. It's been really, really great. So we will see you next time. Enjoy.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.